travel for work more than I'd like. Regional sales, mostly small towns nobody's heard of. The kind of place with one stoplight and a motel that's been there since the 70s. Most of the time it's boring. Fluorescent lights, bad coffee, early mornings. This one trip, though, I think about more than I want to. It was a Tuesday in late November, and I'd driven 4 hours to a town in rural Ohio for a meeting the next morning. By the time I checked in, it was already dark, cold enough that my breath fogged in the parking lot. The motel was a single-story strip, maybe 20 rooms, half of them clearly unoccupied. No cars, curtains drawn, that particular stillness that tells you a place is more empty than full. The clerk at the front desk barely looked up when he handed me the key. Room 114, end of the building, farthest from the office. I didn't think anything of it. I dropped my bag, ordered food, watched TV, went to bed early because I had a 7 a.m. meeting. Around 1 in the morning, I woke up to a knock on my door. Not loud, just 2 knuckles, deliberate, 3 knocks and a pause. I lay still, telling myself it was nothing. A drunk guest at the wrong room, someone locked out. I didn't answer. A minute later, it came again. Same pattern. 3 knocks, pause. I got up, looked through the peephole, and saw nothing. The hallway light outside was out, which I hadn't noticed when I checked in, and the space in front of my door was just darkness. I stood there a long moment, and then I heard, very close to the door, a voice. Quiet, almost gentle. I know you're in there. I did not open that door. I backed away from it, grabbed my phone, and called the front desk. It rang 4 times before the same bored clerk picked up, and when I told him someone was knocking on my door and saying strange things, he paused and said, in a tone I did not like at all, "Yeah, that's probably just Gary. He does that sometimes. He's harmless." Harmless. I asked what that meant exactly, and got a vague answer about a man who lived nearby and sometimes wandered onto the property at night. Nobody had called the police on him before, apparently, because nobody wanted the paperwork. I told the clerk I wanted a different room, ideally one near the office, and he sighed like I was inconveniencing him, but gave me one 2 doors down from the front desk. I gathered my things fast, cracked my door, checked both directions, and moved my bag in 1 trip rather than 2. The new room felt safer for about 40 minutes. Then I heard it again. The same 3 knocks, same pause, this time on my new door. Whoever it was had watched me move. I did not open the door. I called the front desk again, this time telling the clerk flatly that if he didn't come deal with this himself, I was calling the county sheriff's non-emergency line, and I wanted his name for my report either way. That seemed to wake something up in him. He came down the hall himself a few minutes later, and I heard him outside talking to someone in a low voice. I couldn't make out words, just tone. Tired, familiar. The tone of a conversation that had happened before. The knocking stopped. The clerk didn't come explain anything further. He just walked back to the office. I sat up the rest of the night with the desk chair wedged under the door handle and the bathroom light on. In the morning, I checked out early, told the day manager, a different, more alert-looking woman, exactly what had happened. She didn't seem surprised, which told me everything. She apologized, refunded my stay, and said quietly that they'd had complaints about that before, but that the man in question technically didn't live on the property, and they had no real authority to keep him off it. I filed a report with the local sheriff's department before I left town, mostly so there'd be a paper trail if anyone else went through the same thing. I don't know if anything ever came of it. What I took from that night wasn't really about that one man. It was about how many small, quiet failures have to stack up for something like that to keep happening. A hallway light that's always been out. A front desk clerk who knows a name and shrugs. A pattern nobody bothered to break because nobody ever got hurt badly enough to force the issue. Now, when I travel for work, I check reviews specifically for safety complaints, not just cleanliness, and I never again assume that motel means safer than a tent in the woods. Sometimes a locked door with people around is exactly as dangerous as 100 miles of trail. Thank you for listening. If you like this story, please consider like, comment, and subscribe the channel.